Hi guys, welcome to Chakra Sessions. I'm your host, Polly Jo Labbé, here with Star Nation's radio network being broadcast through BeLive TV. What's up, everybody? It is an interesting energy going around in the past week or so. I've had some very cool relationship questions going on and a lot of second guessing. So it wasn't really a surprise to me when my spiritual team decided that we should talk about not only how the body and the spirit are connected through intuition, we get our intuitive hits and knowings about things, but also how to ask questions of your team and find ways to get the information through your body. Because we can open that pathway and that will work. Oh my goodness, there goes my my phone and I can't even get it to turn off. There we go, at least the sound's off. Well, now you heard my ringer on my phone. So good afternoon, let's see who's in the house. All right, Christine, hello, how are you? Tina, hi, welcome. Neshi, of course. Glad to have you in the house. Andrew, hi, nice to have you. And of course, what do you know, Polly Jo? Hi, Rob. And whenever I see the first people here, I'm always like, don't forget to like and share our broadcast and get it out there on Facebook land, because there might be somebody who needs to know the teachings or the information that we're going to have this evening or this afternoon. I'm not sure energetically where I'm in. So I love Rob's comment. He said, I've been third guessing. Yes. We get past second guessing and we move right on to third guessing. I love that. One of the things that shuts down our energy system really, really quickly is when we doubt. We doubt our own intuition. We doubt the guidance that we hear from our team, that we doubt the guidance that we hear from even close family and friends. And not that you have to assume that what they're saying is accurate, but we're not like reading it in our body to see if it resonates. We just use our brain to kind of dismiss it. And that's when we start to get into a whole bunch of trouble, because we get more and more disconnected from the information that we're receiving through our senses and through our, gut feelings or intuitive, hunches. And then we also, when we're really in that brain and we're in that logic thinking, we don't always want to hear the answer from other people. So yes, I had a very great birthday. Thank you, Vicki, for asking. And Rob saying, I'll love and share, deal with it. Yes, I appreciate it. You can love it and share it. I'm good with that. So there's been, a lot of emphasis on thinking something through. Did you think that through? Did you weigh out all your options? There's a lot of cultural emphasis for us to work it out. And when we work it out, we often do it in this thinking place. Many of you know that Winnie the Pooh is one of my totem animals. That's why he's on all my coffee cups. So I always go back to Winnie the Pooh, and he would be like, think. Like it was stressful. It was painful. It just didn't go with the flow. Right. So he would just go with his intuition. And the thinking often got them all in trouble. With Owl or with Rabbit, they would get spinning in all of these like what if scenarios. And we do that like in spades as people. We get really caught up in thinking of all the possibilities until we freeze ourselves from actually taking action on something. And so I had this really cool reminder last week a number of times, and then yesterday as well, that there are ways that we can use our body as a dowsing tool, basically, like you would use a pendulum. And most of us don't on a regular basis. I know some people muscle test for, medicine or for vitamins or things like that. But have you realized or used muscle testing for decision making? So that was one of the things that came up like right away. We can muscle test for what's the best thing for me to do? What's the best way for me to take action? And if we're not hearing our spiritual team, if we're not sensing it in our body, like the right pathway, because the energy on the planet right now is all about the divine feminine energy resurfacing in all beings, so that the masculine and the feminine energy can restore to true balance on the planet. And as that happens within us, we get a little bit, that puts us in a place where we're caught between our logic brain and our intuitive brain. They're not always on the same page. And that's the divine masculine and feminine energy within you that may not be on the same page either. So when we sort of take all of that off the table and it's just you and your higher self having a communication, that's where things like muscle testing can come in handy. Because some people have difficulty using a pendulum as a dowsing tool. And some people, you pull cards for yourself, but then you want me to pull cards for you. You want Neshi to pull cards for you. You want Maureen to pull cards for you. Want Julie to pull cards for you. And not that that's not good, because sometimes you're wanting to get clarification. But if you're waiting to hear what you want to hear, what your logic brain wants to hear, you're waiting for that perfect answer, then you're not in sync with your spirit anyways. So this is, this is this really cool thing. And we can use our body indicators to make decisions about what food is best for us, what exercise is best for us, whether we should, sign up for that coaching program or not. Is this in my highest best? We don't have to always use our logic brain to figure things out. So I'll give you an example of how I used it yesterday. Actually, I'll give you two examples. So first, I'll give you an example of how I used it with a client on Sunday. So on Sunday, I have a very a lovely client who's very in tune spiritually, who has a very strong spiritual practice of their own, is very good at their own maintenance in terms of using flower essences or essential oils to kind of support the physical body on the spiritual journey. But it felt like something else was off. And they have a very strong logic brain. So they thought that the answer was going to be in the flower essences, which it could have been. And my intuition was coming nice and hot and strong, saying, no, that wasn't going to be it. There was something that was better. So we tested what is the best thing for what I'm working on. These flower essences, these oils, these crystals. And and what combination was going to work. And so we did muscle testing, and you can do it on yourself by putting your thumb and your first finger together. You hold them together, and when you pull, you'll feel that it's tight, right? You're going to feel that it's tight. And if your body doesn't want it, it'll stay strong if it's good for you, and it'll release if it's not. Like, that's not a good choice for you. So, and it may seem strange, like that you use it in your brain, that your logic brain will think, well, I'm controlling it by what I'm thinking. But when you do it for another person, you don't know what's best. And so, those of you who know I have allergies, right? You could do this right in this moment. You could lock your fingers together, and, you could see, can I test for Polly Joe, right? And it's going to be nice and strong, most likely. And then you're going to say, is it okay for Polly Joe to drink water, right? And we know that's always going to be a yes. And then you say, is it okay for Polly Joe to eat potatoes? And most of you are going to get that. Now, those of you who don't get a no for that, you might be in Europe. But in general, I'm highly allergic to potatoes because they cross-pollinate with ragweed, and my ragweed allergy is through the roof. So I actually have gone into anaphylaxis with potatoes. But you can test it with yourself, and you can test it with other things. So this is like a way that a number of people will do it with their body, with the two fingers together. That's pretty easy. I also will use my body as a pendulum by having my feet flat on the floor, and I sit up nice and straight, and I ask my body to show me yes and no and maybe by moving my body for me. So if I ask my body to show me yes, it's going to tilt forward, kind of like it's nodding toward you. And if it's going to show me maybe, generally I stay still. And it's like, how are you going to show me no today? And it's going to lean back. So that will happen for you, but your feet have to be very strongly on the floor. And I use that method when I'm in a store because I have a lot of food allergies, and sometimes I don't know. It's good for me to hold the food in my field and ask if this food is good for me or not. Can I eat salmon? Yes. That sometimes is a no. If it's farmed, then it's not always a yes. So you start using your body. So those are two easy ways, right? You can use your fingers, and you can allow your body to become the pendulum. And then other people have ways of muscle testing that you do with another person. And this is one of the strongest things that I do is you hold out your arm, and somebody pushes down, and you resist it being pushed down. And then you determine whether the arm going down is because they need it, or if the arm staying up is because they need it. Because whatever belief system you hold on that is how the muscle testing will work. And I actually did muscle testing that way on issues of, is this person the right teaching assistant for me? Is this person the right energy for my school? Is this the person, should I be reaching out to contact this person who's applied for a job? Is this person a good fit to bring in as guest faculty? Because my logical brain is like, okay, these people make sense. They're at the price range that you want to spend. But that has nothing to do with the vibration of the healing work that I do. And I used my logic brain last year and hired a couple people who just really did not resonate. They were highly qualified on paper. On paper, they looked great. In action, our energy didn't vibrate at the same frequency, and so we didn't resonate. And so it was a struggle to work with them because there was something about our energy that didn't flow well together. It doesn't mean that they weren't qualified. It didn't mean that they weren't great at what they did. It was that we weren't great for each other in relationship. So you can even use it for that. And this is a way for you to start letting your body be the conduit and the communicator with your spirit. And the spirit has no attachment to the outcome. Your logical brain, because it's connected to your ego, it has an attachment to the outcome. You know, we all want to win. We all want the best because that's, you know, that ego wants to be the best and the strongest and the fittest and the whatever. And it's got its own story. So the logic brain is connected to the story and how the story develops and the outcome. Your spirit doesn't matter. The spirit is about flow and evolution. And so it doesn't matter to your spirit whether, you know, you eat, you know, a hamburger for breakfast and an omelet for dinner. That doesn't matter to your spirit, right? It's food is food as long as you have fuel. But it's going to tell you, if you ask what's best for me to have, it'll just tell you because you're just asking what's best, where your logical brain would be like, well, that's not breakfast food. So how can that be the best? So I hope that's making sense. So I'm just going back through. I see that Bobby joins us. Good morning. Good to have you here. Love seeing you. Vicki saying, sounds fantastic. I need this in my life. I know, right? This is huge. And even I realized that there are ways that I wasn't using it. Like when I was testing it on staffing issues yesterday, like how I was feeling in my body some uncertainty. You know, my stomach was grasping in a certain way. That means things aren't quite as they seem. And when that happens, I tend to stop and listen. But if I'm not asking the right question, there's nothing really to hear about. Or I'm having difficulty hearing because maybe I don't want to hear the answer. And sometimes when it comes to something super personal, like our relationships or our work, especially if your work's your baby, kind of like me, we don't always, the logic brain doesn't want to hear a tough answer. Like that person really isn't good for you because you love the person and you want to work with them. You know, you want to have a friendship with them, but they're not the best person for you right in this minute for what your needs are. And so I had to get out of my own way. And I didn't even, you know, I had somebody else who was muscle testing me, but I didn't even tell them the questions I was asking. So that way they weren't influencing my asking either, if that makes sense. So, and Vicky's also saying kinesiology quite a bit. She uses it quite a bit and it's always accurate. It is. And for people who are non-believers, like, hello, it is really right there. Hi, Pat. Nice to see you. Good to have you in the house. So, it got me really thinking because I have businesses who use those skills of mine on a regular basis. And it's an interesting thing because I don't really advertise that I do that. But, I work with a multi-million-dollar company, and I work with a university. And those are huge decisions that people are making, and staffing decisions are huge. So feeling energetically like, is this person right for the school? Is this person right for my business? Is this person the best applicant to the position? And it's easy for me to do it for other people. It's something that I take, I can take 20 minutes or half an hour and I can whiz through a bunch of things. They'll come to me. The one business I work with every week, they have a list of, staffing things that are going on. They have a list of like high expensive equipment that they need to buy. Do they want to buy it? Do they want to rent it or lease it? Is it, there's just lots of different things that come up that can have a huge impact. We're all going to think twice before we spend $100,000 on something, right? And so to have to do that kind of decision making on a regular basis, it can elevate the stress, right? So when we start to use our body in connection with spirit, then we start to take that out of the way. And a pendulum will work. And I put this kind of like disclaimer on it. I am a strong proponent of using natural pendulums. So ones that are made out of metal and made out of wood. When you start to use crystals, yes, they're natural, but they have their own vibration. They have their own resonance, and certain crystals want you to be happy. So if you're using a crystal and it thinks that you'll be happiest with this choice, sometimes it will not be accurate because it's going by your happiness quotient, not by what's best for you. Because sometimes what's best for us is not what makes us happy. Sometimes it irritates us and we don't want to do it and we're kicking and screaming. But a pendulum that is crystal will sometimes read inaccurately. But I find that the ones that are made with copper and metal and wood, they tend to be pretty spot on. It's a little bit harder to manipulate that energy, where crystals can be programmed by our intention. And if we're not completely clean and clear, well, we better have a drink of water. Something's coming in. I'm going to pull out my essential oil to open my throat channel more. So when we want to really be one-on-one with spirit, using our muscle testing, the kinesiology, in a number of ways can be helpful. And I know there are other ways to do that. Those are just the three that I use personally. Nice. Yes. So now she's saying some crystals will hold the residual energy from a previous question or situation. They need to be cleared between subjects or topics. Right. And, Thank you for that clarification, and it's that, and it also holds the energy of the person who's held it. So if you just pick up a pendulum in the store, it may contain the energy of the person who picked it up before you. So that can make it difficult as well, to test the accuracy in that situation. So, yep. So Rob is asking for a send request. Holly just called to me that her father Joe is going to the ER with a cardiac situation. All right. So the angels are already working on that right in this moment, as soon as you posted it. But we will hold that energy and that intention as soon as we get to the meditation as well. But as soon as it popped up, I felt energy going in that direction. So thank you, Rob, for sharing that. I really appreciate that. Because Holly, is a lovely member of the Star Nations community. So when we are in our logic brain, or we're in a place where we're not sure if, we're in that second and third guessing ourselves, right? And we're not sure that the tools are working, we start questioning whether, well, does that card really mean that? Or is that pendulum really accurate? That's usually when our ego is interfering. But we can use the muscle testing, the different ways of muscle testing, to really start to connect and let spirit talk to us and talk through us, through our body. And this is something that we used to do naturally, and have sort of forgotten. I used to wonder, how did they determine what berries you could eat and which were poisonous? Do people just try them and Russian roulette it, and say, well, that's a good one, or oops, that killed so-and-so. Guess we better walk on and not eat it. Like, I know there was some of that happened. But there was also this sense of they just knew. So how did they just know that it was okay to do that? There was a recent thing on I saw it posted on Facebook by a few people, about dandelion root being really, really good for helping with some health issues. And I had this clear recollection of my grandfather, sending me out into the yard that was filled with dandelions, and that, you picked the actual dandelion and put it in one bowl, and you picked the leaves and you put it in another bowl, and they were used for certain things. Yeah. Who volunteers to test the berries, right? Yeah. Yeah. The women and children probably. But yeah, we had the knowing. We could tell by the leaf and the shape, and there's still people who have that skill. But the majority of people, you walk into, your grocery store, right? And there's 20 different brands of, let's just say, types of lettuce, leafy greens, right? And they might have 3 or 4 of the same kind, but they're from different growers. And, they can all say they're organic, but we don't know who used what in the soil, who used what, there's still a lot of variables. So can you imagine, being able to use your body to tell you in an instant which one's best for you? And the other thing that I do with that, you can do, like I said, the regular muscle testing, but you can also use your hand to go over an item, and you will feel it vibrate in the bottom of your hand. And so for me, when I go to buy lettuce, right, I'm running my hand over the boxes, and it may be this, or the bags, or the heads of lettuce, like whatever, however I'm doing it, or wherever I'm doing it. But I'm not only checking which brand, but I'm also checking which one, because they're all made slightly differently, or they were picked at a slightly different time, and which one is in the fullest vibration to nourish me and my family. And and I do that to pick out crystals. I see which one of the crystals vibrates the strongest. I may have a box of 100 clear quartz crystals, and they may all look beautiful. If I picked by beauty, maybe that's the right one, but I would run my hand over them and feel which one or ones are best for me and the work I'm going to do with them. And that she's also saying, or the mushrooms, had they, yeah, those mushrooms, those are pretty, and Rob knows people who are willing to test the mushrooms. Yeah. And test the oregano too. So it's one of those things where we can make a more informed choice than just our logic brain. And if we use our spiritual connection to really guide us in a lot more things than we think about. You go into a store and you're looking at the price, and you're looking at the quality, you're looking at the brand. But are you looking at what resonates with you and what is best for you? We can do all the research on the planet to get our logic brain on the same place, but will we intuitively listen to our body? I had a client in the past who did a lot of research, who was having a lot of health issues. And they thought it was boiling all down to food, which food has if you trust me with all my allergies, if you don't eat the right food, that makes a big difference. But they were just believing everything they were reading on the internet about certain diets and certain things and what they were good for, but they weren't testing what was best for them. So by the time they asked my assistance, they wanted me to say to validate what they'd already researched, which is not at all what I got. And I am like, I'm not the right person for you, because I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to answer with spirit the question you're asking. What's best for me is not that. And it, I said, the best thing for you is this, this naturopath that I know has even more accuracy when it comes to that type of thing than I do. And who's also extremely good healer. And so it was a matter of, and it took that person a month of still trying to make it work the way they were doing it, a month longer of sickness, a month longer of pain, before they were willing to ask their own body what they needed, which was almost a complete 180 from what they were doing. They were actually making the situation worse. So yes, Neshi is like, it's also about trusting our own intuition. Absolutely. And I think that kind of what Spirit was talking to me about with this is that, we get caught in our logic brain and we can't always hear our intuitive messages. And so when there's that disconnect between us understanding our own intuition, we can always fall back on using our body to show us the connection. And then we start to reignite the intuitive pieces. So for me, because I have such strong food things, I know in one bite whether I should eat anymore or not. And I know in one bite whether it's going to cause an allergic reaction or it's something that I can, that I just need to not eat. And with the allergic reaction, I know instantly, where I am on the severity with that. But the hard thing is that, I'm really strong on doing it with food. But I might not be so strong on doing it with like my staff, or in my relationships. Because, our heart might want a certain outcome. Our ego part might want a certain outcome. Our inner child might want a certain outcome. And that we may not realize that we're not listening to our intuition fully. So this is really when we aren't listening or when we're doubting our intuition and we're sort of looking externally for answers, then using your body as the external answer is a huge step forward in reconnecting with your intuition. So Rob says, I tried to make it work from advice from a healer. I still walk with a limp from knee and ankle problems. My ankle still cracks constantly. So yeah, and our legs are huge indicators of when we aren't walking our life in alignment. And the knees are really about flexibility in situations and adaptability. And sometimes they need to, for me, I will sometimes get a twinge of pain in my right hip. As soon as I have twinge of pain in my right hip, I know that my manifestation energy is a little bit ungrounded. And so I thank my body for showing me that and telling me that so I can realign my energy. And when my knees are giving me a hard time, generally I've gotten myself locked in, like it has to be done this way. And I'm not allowing space for spirit to shift it to a new way of doing things. It's like, I've always done it this way. Why can't I do it this way? Well, just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's always going to be the right way. So thanks, Rob, for sharing that, because that is part of the ego and the logic brain. That has to do with whether are we connected to, what is right for our ego or what is right for our body and soul. And our logic brain is going to tell us 101 steps of, this is how it's done. But it doesn't always breathe room into the flexibility and adaptability so that spirit can come in and shift our possibilities. And that's when we can use our intuition. That's when we can use our body as a pendulum. That's when we can use our body to break down the barriers, and you could use you can use your body to tell you whether this is the right job for you, if you should even apply for it. You can ask your body to tell you whether you should, exercise for a half an hour or an hour today. There are all sorts of things that, our logic brain is like, I need to do this. And yet somehow it doesn't feel quite right, and we don't know what's not right about it. That's when we can tune in. And some people are super at using their intuition to really tap in and ask. But there are times, like I said, that we don't want to hear. If it's something that could be difficult, we don't necessarily want to hear the answer, so we don't listen to our spiritual team, or we kind of do the la, 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 la. So that's when we fall back on, okay, I might be getting in my own way at the moment, so let's try this way. So it's just sort of opening and expanding an awareness of, how do we do communication in general? Are we somebody who listens fully and then can recite back what we just heard, or are we listening for an opportunity to talk? And we do that same communication style with spirit. And, with our friends, with our family, with our bosses, if we have poor listening skills in any of those areas, then there's a possibility that we won't be listening fully to our spiritual team and our intuition. And when I talk about listening, sometimes people get freaked out that they should be hearing them, like talking in your ear. That doesn't happen for everyone. You get messages in different ways. It's also when we use the term seeing, it doesn't mean that I will see Mother Mary standing in front of me. When I say Mother Mary, I see or I feel Mother Mary's presence. I don't always physically see her. I see her sort of in my third eye, and I experience her energy and know that it's present. But we don't have some of the terminology, especially in the English language, for that. So we sometimes use hearing or listening or seeing, and people take it quite literally. So it's, how are you a receptor to the information from spirit? Are you open to receiving everything, even if it's uncomfortable? Or do you only want to hear what you want to hear? And if we have that energy, then sometimes we block some of our intuition from flowing freely. And when that's happening and we feel stuck, like we're not getting messages from spirit and I don't understand what they're saying, then it's time to start checking in with your whole body and vibration, and seeing if you can get energy or information that way. And I'll tell you, if you can't, generally it's because you're not asking the question cleanly enough. I realized a few days ago, probably almost a week ago, that I had asked, I asked a question when I was pulling cards for myself. And it came out this one answer that didn't seem right. It didn't resonate with me as the truth to what I was thinking about versus how I asked. And it took me a few days later to realize that I didn't ask the question cleanly. So I wasn't asking it specific enough to what I actually wanted answered. So I was asking the question in a more general way than I meant to. So when I went back to the cards and went back and asked, then I got a response that resonated with me as the truth. Does that make sense? So that's a lot of talking. So we're going to take the last bit of the show to do our healing meditation. And as we do that, we're going to gently ask that all the ways that spirit communicates through our body to be open, all of those channels and all those pathways to be open. And I also invite you to welcome in Holly's father's higher self to join us for the healing so that he can receive healing in the way that he is meant to through the energy of our intention. And if you'd like to participate in that, you may. And as always, before we start, we set the intention that this healing meditation is for the good of all and harm to none, including ourselves. All right. So you're going to want to really reestablish your ground if you haven't already. And even if you grounded earlier today, just take a moment to check in. And whether you ground through a sense of roots through your feet, or a cord that extends from your tailbone, or cords that connect from your chakras, but we want to fully be present in our body as we connect to the body and its messages that it wants to share with us and through us. And we invite in the divine, however we connect with the divine, to connect to us and through us. And we ask to be surrounded and protected in this healing, in a bubble of love and light, creating a sacred space for us to do our work in, and sacred space for us to help others in as well. And welcoming your spiritual team, all divine beings of the highest, fullest, and brightest vibration available to us in this moment, whether those are our ancestors, the angels, the ascended masters, star beings, animals, all divine creatures. That once again that we connect to for the good of all and harm to none. So we're going to start by feeling the connection to our crown and just making sure that the space for the intuition and the energy to flow in connection to spirit is as wide and as full as we are able to in this moment. And then really connecting to our third eye, that really central location where all of our senses and our intuition connect and collect for us to have clear thinking and clear knowing as we receive the energy and the information. In the fullest way that we are able. Really opening the throat and the jaw so that we can ask for what we need clearly, succinctly, and we can hear and receive clear and easy answers to understand. And in that throat, just opening up any space where we hold back, speaking the truth, hearing the truth, feeling the truth authentically within ourselves, or receiving that from others. And then moving down into our shoulders and the way we get tightness in the neck or in the upper back to indicate we're carrying too much and it's time to lighten our load. And gently, gently, gently moving into the heart energy. And feeling how we receive information in the heart. Do we shield and block energy from coming in to our heart space in a way to protect ourselves from others? And do we need that shield? Or have we built walls? In the space with the heart being more open, we can allow space for our energy to let us know when it is tight through a squeezing, or it is open through a releasing. And whether that happens near the heart or the lungs. Sometimes we're shown through a shortness of breath or through a release of the breath. And moving down into our third chakra in our belly. And noticing all the ways we are communicated to here. Whether it's a tightness, a fluttering, whether we have pain off to one side or the other. Whether that energy can relax and release, or whether it is always on guard. And whether our stomach or our liver or kidneys or pancreas send us intuitive messages. about our environment and our connection, and even what we eat and drink. And moving down into the second chakra, and really opening the communication here with others, that ebb and flow. And maybe we know intuitively by a tightness in our back, a pressure in our lower abdomen or our womb area. Maybe it moves out into your hips, especially if it's connected to creating in the physical or the spiritual realms. And moving down to our first chakra, that root chakra, and the ways it communicates to us through our legs, our knees, our feet, our ankles, our shins, our calves, the sciatic, the hip flexor, which work with second and first chakra together. Really feeling that energy opening up ways for your body to communicate with you, that things, to let you know what things aren't working or things that need adjusting. And now gently taking a moment to sit with your energy and your body. And just affirm whether you would like to open communication with your body and your spirit in this moment. And how open you are to receiving guidance this way. And whether you can communicate to spirit this way, and which ways work best for you and your team. Yeah. And just take a moment to send the fullest, brightest, healing energy to Holly and her dad. Releasing stress and anxiety and worry. Thank you. And take a moment to thank your spiritual team for being present, for being here, helping, guiding you. And just when you're ready to kind of ground back into the moment, connect back in with spirit, connect back in with yourself. So this is, today was interesting because it was really more about you communicating with you. And this is a big time on the planet where relationship energy is being tested on all fronts. And a lot of it comes down to the relationship between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and restoring that energy into balance on the planet. So in any ways that we aren't holding body and spirit in a balanced communion, those imbalances will start to surface. So for us to be proactive, we don't have to wait for spirit to talk to us. We can talk to spirit. And if you're not comfortable just asking questions and hearing a response come in, or writing a response as it comes in, let your body, using the kinesiology, to show you what spirit's been trying to tell you. And a lot of people use the muscle testing, like I said, for things like vitamins and medicine and food, but we can also use the muscle testing on what projects are best for us to commit to, what is good for our work environment, what's good for our, even wall paint. I think you could do it for that and see what works for you. Because if we can start to communicate with ourselves and our spiritual team more completely, more fully, then we're able to listen and communicate with others more cleanly. And then they can communicate with us. And isn't that what we're all about? We just want to be heard, we want to be seen, and we want to hold space to do that for other people. So thank you guys again for showing up. I will see some of you tomorrow on Soul Connections at 7 p.m. And if you're still got a nudge, maybe you need to muscle test, who's going to join me this weekend in Toma? Because we still have a little bit of space available, and my team was pretty clear we might have a couple more people join us. So if you're ready to actually do some deep work and start really moving forward in your true potential, then join us this weekend at Star Nations Academy. And with that, you guys, I will see you next week at Chakra Sessions, Tuesday at noon. Bye, guys.